Hey everybody, we're back right here around the nation. I'm your host, Jeff Waldorf. Welcome back to the show. So, Thursday, got a good Thursday show for you guys, packed with a lot of different news, a lot of different stuff, some stuff from earlier from the week, special election in Kansas. We got Trump, climate change. Man, we got all sorts of stuff. So, stay tuned, man. And we also have student loans, discussion about that. Bernie Sanders, very popular politician, still very popular. And even he's seen a dip in popularity, still the most popular politician in America. Kind of amazing. All that and more. And we've got Ron Placone here, contributor to the show. Welcome to the show, Ron.
Howdy, Jeff.
Hey. So, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good, buddy. I'm doing good. I'm coming at you from my parents' house.
Yeah.
I'm
dedicated.
I'm in Pennsylvania for a little bit, doing some dates in the area. If anyone listening is in Harrisburg or Pittsburgh Friday night, I'll be in Harrisburg at the Harrisburg Improv Theater. That show kicks off at 9 p.m. Saturday night, 2 shows in Pittsburgh, 8 p.m. at Unplanned Comedy, 10 p.m. at Ham Bones, both in the Lawrenceville area of town. And yeah, so that's going on. And my main reason for being in town is my grandmother is turning 100 years young.
Wow.
So, yeah, man, pretty crazy, huh? She hates Trump.
Awesome. I like your grandma already.
She's cool, man. She really does not like Trump. And before that, the politician, I mean, she didn't like Bush. And she really, my family's from Pennsylvania. She really despised Rick Santorum. Really did not like Rick Santorum. So my grandma doesn't understand YouTube, but if she did, I'd like to think she'd enjoy some of the content.
Awesome.
That I do. That we all do.
It's funny. You mentioned that she didn't like Santorum. I hope she did not Google him.
Right. No, I don't.
That's the last thing you need to say.
She's not an internet person.
No. Thank goodness.
She never got hip to the internet.
She is saved from having to see that.
Yes. She is.
So that's good. That's good. Well, happy birthday to her, man. That's awesome.
Thanks, man.
I could only hope to live to be 100.
Yeah, man. I mean, I don't think I'll see it, but you never know. I mean, with technology and all that shit, but
My only hope is a robot body, which would be kind of cool.
Active and have a decent quality of life, then I'm happy to keep ticking. And she, my grandma still does pretty good. I mean, she still reads the newspaper every day. She's still astute. I mean, she forgets a lot of stuff, but she's active in her retirement community. She paints a lot. Like she makes a lot of paintings. So she's still she's still kicking pretty good. So
yeah. Hey, you know what helps people live longer? Healthcare. That helps.
Healthcare is a big one.
Helps a lot.
And yeah, I mean that and well, there's other little things like that I know have helped her out. Like the Mediterranean diet apparently is a key to like longevity. And my family's Italian, so she's got that going on. And apparently like staying informed helps. And like I said, she still reads the newspaper every day. She has opinions on what's going on in the world. Absolutely. So and apparently that does help you.
Absolutely.
So all you news junkies out there watching this, that might help us all live longer, for better or worse. We might be kicking a long ass time.
Yeah.
Because of all the shit that we pay attention to that makes us miserable.
Miserable indeed. So interesting. You said knowing things, learning things, of course, makes you could possibly help you live longer. Well, we learned something today, which actually did the opposite of that. Did you hear today? It's kind of breaking news where, and I don't have a lot of information on it, but we literally just dropped the biggest bomb that we could on Afghanistan.
Well, I have not heard that yet. This is my first time hearing about it here.
So we have dropped the so-called mother of all bombs on Afghanistan. It is a 22,000-pound bomb. Jeez and Lord mercy, man. Not only is it that big of a bomb, the biggest bomb that we have, it's also being dropped in Afghanistan, a place we should have never been in the beginning. in the first place.
Right.
And that somehow we're still there, and yet everybody forgets, oh, right, we're still there. We're still in Afghanistan. Isn't that crazy? That's so crazy. What would Trump say? What Trump say next? We tend to forget that we have been in a perpetual state of war since, for the last 15, 16 years?
Mm-hmm.
Insane. But yeah, here we are. Still bombing a country that we should not be in, that we shouldn't have anything involved with in at all, and that doesn't really want us there. So, but hey, regime change wars
and an
are
ugly
great.
trend has started because Donald Trump has been praised so much.
Oh my God, yes.
For his preemptive strikes. I mean, there's people that are saying, "Oh, well, he's presidential now," because that's when you earn your presidential stripe in the United States. When you do a preemptive strike against a nation you have no business striking, which, yes, based on the evidence that was available, he had no business doing what he did in Syria. He should not have done that. Obama didn't have any business doing it in 2013 either. Trump didn't have any business doing it now. Right. Congress opposed one of the two of them.
It's actually worse.
But, it didn't matter in either case.
It's actually worse with Trump.
But
let me point out why I think it's actually worse with Trump. What Obama did was not great.
Yeah.
It was terrible. But with Trump, you have him saying, well, okay, we're going to bomb your country, but we're not going to let any of you in to escape the bombing.
Right.
You know those beautiful babies that were killed in the gas attack? We're not going to let them in. In fact, he's kept out the beautiful babies, the children, and the people who actually are trying to escape the bombing, Assad, and ISIS. So that's what we're doing. That's actually kind of what makes it worse than just bombing in the first place. Because, Obama did bomb the shit out of him. He had no reason to do so. They weren't an imminent threat to America. Yes, it was a humanitarian crisis. Yes, Assad is a brutal dictator, et cetera, the same kind of stuff that we said about Saddam. But usually when we get involved, we break everything, and then we go, sorry, we broke stuff. Now we got to go.
Yeah.
Oh, look, ISIS.
And proper investigations were not conducted. People were shooting first and asking later. If there's anyone that has learned that shooting first and asking later has failed miserably, it should be the United States. However, we have not learned that lesson. So, I mean, it's terrible what's going on. But now that it's been applauded on both the right and the so-called left, might I add. I mean, there's people on the left applauding.
No, Brian Williams called it beautiful when the bombs were going off. Fareed Zakaria, I love it when Jeremy Scahill, I don't know if you saw this, Jeremy Scahill comes out and says, Fareed Zakaria, if he could have had sex with that Tomahawk missile on the air, he would have. Yeah, that's how much he fawned over this.
Brian Williams is on the hunt for such aesthetically pleasing stuff, I'm pretty sure his salary affords him to go to any art gallery or any museum in the United States or anywhere else in the world for that matter. There's a lot more things you can describe as beautiful, Brian Williams, you bizarre weirdo. Maybe it's because for years and years you took General Electric's money to do your thing, so just parroting war propaganda kind of just comes second nature for you. It's like a muscle reflex at this point.
But see, there's one thing of art that he cares about, and that's the art of war. And so, yeah. And look, what's funny is that if he actually were shot at when he was in a helicopter, he wouldn't be so fond of weapons of war. Just saying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it wouldn't be so pretty all of a sudden.
Wouldn't be so pretty. We're not even into the show, folks, but I just had to get that before we get into some of our other topics. And I've got a range of stuff, and I know we're not going to have time to do it all. So I'm going to ask you, Ron, for your input of what you want to cover. Before we get to that, updates in the Patreon drive. So right now we are 264 patrons on Patreon, which is amazing. So you guys, of course, have came through, and you were helping to save the show through Patreon. And I want to give you shout outs to some of the new patrons that we've had over the last couple of days. We had Stephen P. Pledging $1, Karen F. Another $1, $5 from Michael D. Thank you, Michael. $1 by Stephen N. Thank you, Stephen. $3 from Qbran. Interesting name, but thank you nonetheless for that $3. $3 by Eric L. Thank you, Eric. $3 from Bruce F. Thank you, Bruce. $2 from David D. I don't know if I read these already, but I'll go ahead and read them again. What the hell? Because again, I'm going to continue to thank you guys for being patrons and supporting the show. $3 from Megan S. $2 from Jennifer. $5 from Line B. I don't know if I said that right. $1 from Gerald S. $2 from Oscar G. $1 from Carlos A. And $1 from Joshua P. Thank you, everybody. And remember, we've got a special patron-only Ask Me Anything going on tomorrow. It's going to be a live patron-only event over on our Patreon page. I'm going to have an unlisted YouTube link posted in Patreon. So the only way you're going to be able to get to it is if you log in through Patreon, and you'll see it. It'll be right there. And of course, if you miss it, it'll be posted there so you can watch it. I'm going to be talking about mostly, I'm going to talk about myself. I'm going to answer a lot of your questions. So go ahead and send those questions in. You can tweet me at Jeff's Politics or at TYT Nation with your questions. Or there's also an open thread where you can ask your questions there on our Patreon page. So go there. Maybe I should put a link in the description of this video as well. So anyway, go there, ask your questions. I'll answer them tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern, right here. All right. Anyway, let's get into some stories. Ron, do you want to talk about Bernie Sanders being popular, climate change, the effect of climate change on Trump's Mar-a-Lago, Betsy DeVos screwing over student loan borrowers? How about there's a question or a story on a Bernie-crat nearly winning in a Kansas special election. That's an interesting story. Or Alabama wants to allow churches to field their own police force.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why don't we do Bernie Sanders' popularity followed by the Bernie-crat thing in Kansas, because
Sure.
those two things are kind of connected, and then kind of wherever you want to go from there.
Yeah.
But I wanna stick around for some people's questions.
Okay.
So why don't we do those a little bit before 4?
Well, what we're gonna do? I'm gonna do the that's for the patrons only. So,
okay.
And that's going to be
Alright, never mind
tomorrow
then.
night at 7 p.m. Eastern. I'm going to take questions.
Oh, that's not during this show?
No,
Okay.
it's after tomorrow's show. Hey, and if you want to come there and hang out and stuff and let people ask you questions, if you're free and available, that's
Well, no, I
that's
thought
definitely
you
an
said I thought on Twitter you said something about I thought you said something about a Q&A today. I must have misread it. But yeah, never mind.
No,
I
it's
misread it.
a Q&A tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern.
Okay.
As far as stories,
Okay.
we also have another United Airlines story too.
Ha. All right.
So that's fun.
Well, let's start with Bernie and take it from there.
Absolutely. That sounds like a great plan. Now, Bernie Sanders is still the most popular politician in America, and especially in his home state of Vermont, which makes a lot of sense. According to a recent Morning Consult poll released on Monday, 75% of Vermonters now approve of Bernie Sanders, which is kind of outstanding and kind of amazing when it comes to popularity. I mean, you look at his popularity versus the popularity of, for example, Congress, which is abysmal. Now, this is after his popularity has taken a devastating hit. This is amazing. There was a similar poll conducted back in September of 2016, and it put the percentage of people approving of Bernie Sanders at 87%. Now, that is a 12% fall. Sanders' disapproval was also up to 21% in the latest poll, which is 9% higher than in the poll in September. And yet, even though he took this gigantic hit, he still has 3/4 of Vermonters saying, no, we love this guy. That's unheard of. That's amazing. Nobody in the country even comes close to these job approval and popularity numbers. I mean, for example, I've got a couple of other polls for you. One that I've talked about before, the Fox News poll done in March that had him polling nationally at 61%. Again, that is the highest approval rating of any politician in the country, and it's a Fox News poll. So he also had a very low disapproval rating, at about 32%. So, give you a little context, how did the other senators fare? Well, among the senators with the highest rates of approval, you had fellow Vermont Senator Patrick Leahy, Republican Senator John Barrasso, Michael Enzi, and Independent Senator Angus King, coming somewhat close. Among the senators with highest disapproval, well, we've got Mitch McConnell, we've got John McCain, Lindsey Graham, Lisa Murkowski, and Democrat Claire McCaskill. Disaster. So let me give you the numbers on McConnell. So McConnell remained the least popular senator, according to the poll, with only 44% of Kentucky voters approving of him, compared to the 47% of those who disapproved. They do not like Mitch McConnell. The turtle needs to go back in his shell and get out of here. Mm-hmm. You got to go, sir. And that's after him being improved, his polling numbers improving since September of last year, when 39% approved of him and 51% did not. Very interesting numbers on this. So here's my takeaway, Ron. As far as the Democratic side, turns out when you're a progressive, people like you more, and when you're a centrist like Claire McCaskill or a corporatist, a centrist corporatist Democrat, you tend to not be popular. So I'm thinking that McCaskill, she's not gonna last a second term.
Mm-hmm.
Thoughts?
No, I think you're 100% right. And even, I mean, piggybacking off of that, even Bernie Sanders, popularity not being quite as high as it was, I think that's because so many people really want him to throw a wrench in the system and start, a new third party. That so many people really are inspired by the Draft Bernie thing. And, you saw it on the campaign trail when Bernie Sanders was really speaking about the issues and putting his platform out there. He was filling up stadiums. When he started stumping for Hillary Clinton, all of a sudden those attendances were significantly less. Mm-hmm. So I think that the reason for some of Bernie's waning popularity, which he's still the most popular politician in the country, making him one of the most popular politicians in the world, but I think the reason that it may have had a bit of a dip for him is because people don't like him playing the game the way that he is. And the optimist in me is saying that he's going to wait until after the midterms to do something revolutionary. But the realist in me is saying he knows that he's older, he's a little tired. He's going to lay as much groundwork as he can within the machine, and then it's going to be up to someone else to take that torch and run with it. I'd like to think it's going to be a Tulsi Gabbard or somebody like that, because I don't know who else it would be.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, there's a couple of different. There's Nina Turner, who's always a good person to go to. And you even talked to, now I'm blanking on his name, which I should know. I should know this guy's name. You've talked to him on the Jimmy Dore show. He ran a recent campaign.
Tim Canova?
Well, there's Canova, but there was another guy. Sam Ronan. It was Sam Ronan, yeah. So
there's
like
some good progressives out there, man. I mean, they're still out and about, but it's they're not really getting the
not yet.
They're few and far between. I mean, it's
not yet. But we do have a story later about a progressive in Kansas that's thrown a wrench in the system, and has Republicans incredibly scared. So that's a good story, and we'll go to that after this. But there are good progressives. As far as Bernie, look, it's not just the fact that he's Bernie Sanders is the reason that he's popular. He's popular because of the ideas that he espouses. Mm-hmm. Like, that's what got people interested in him in the first place. The ideas. And those ideas, even if his popularity wanes even more, which I don't see happening, but if it does, it's not like those ideas will no longer be popular. They're actually popular. They're incredibly popular. People really like the idea of Medicare for all. People really like the idea of a living wage, a higher minimum wage that people can survive on. People like the idea of, hey, you can go to college and not come out loaded with debt. In fact, New York, Governor Cuomo, somebody we don't always agree with, even he's like, yeah, we're going to pass tuition-free education for people who are making $125,000 or less. That's a step in the right direction, and that is progressive legislation. So it is working. So why do I bring this up, though? That's the important question. Why do I continue to bring this up? Because the Democrats need to pay attention. If you actually want to win, you might want to look at some of the policies that made these people popular. Over the half of the country wants universal funded healthcare, government funded healthcare. You even have Trump supporters out there that are saying, yeah, we could have a Medicare for all. Now, here's a guy that I disagree with on 99.999% of things, and that's Mike Cernovich, right? You heard of this guy? He's a pretty abhorrent person. He's one of those alt-righters, okay? So-called alt-right, pretty racist guy. He was out there plugging this on 60 Minutes and saying, yep, Medicare for all is actually a pretty good policy. That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, there's people on the right that are. I mean, there was another right-wing columnist that wrote an op-ed about how we're going in that direction now. And
yeah, it was Charles Krauthammer.
A nonprofit single payer is an inevitability, which I agree with that. I think it is an inevitability. I think that's a positive thing. They do not.
Yeah.
That's the difference. But I do think, regardless, it's an inevitability. We are inevitably going to get there, and I think it took something like Donald Trump's insane proposal. Yep. To kind of get people to want to go there. So, I mean, I've said it on this show before. You've said it on this show before. I've said it on the Jimmy Dore show before. Jimmy said it before. So many people. I'm sure Cenk Uygur said it before. Now is the time for the Democrats to embrace single payer, not to just have empty platitudes on their website about how it'd be great if everyone had health care, but to actually embrace a policy that's a better alternative, which is single payer. And we're not seeing it quite yet, but there is more grumbling than ever before, and it increases by the day.
Yeah, and that's because this shouldn't even be a political issue. Healthcare should not be a political partisan issue. It should be an issue of, do we want to take care of our own? And
in other countries, it's not a political issue.
It's not a political issue in other countries. So that's why I can agree with somebody like as abhorrent and hateful as Mike Cernovich on this issue, because you know what? It's good policy. Good policy is good policy. So, I mean, again, a majority of the country wants these good policies. It doesn't matter where you're on the spectrum. People understand that there is good policy, things like higher minimum wage, tuition-free higher education. I mentioned all this. All this stuff is incredibly popular with American people. Even if you're a diehard Hillary Clinton Democrat and you hate Bernie Sanders and you don't like this guy, guess what? Odds are you're going to agree that eventually we need to go to this system. 81% of Democratic voters, doesn't matter where you're at, want single payer. It's the Democratic establishment politicians that want to make sure that you don't get that, so their health insurance buddies can continue to get paid. And that's what this is about. So the question is the Democratic Party controlled by the minority of so-called centrist corporatist Democrats? And to that, I believe it is. I don't think I'm going to get much disagreement from you.
That's why I don't see how I could disagree with that. I mean, the only way, to somebody that's not paying any attention, they might disagree with that. But of course, and all of their policy ideas. That's why you don't see single payer in their platform. That's why you don't see anything about student loan debt in their platform. That's why you don't see them actually confronting big pharma. That's why you don't see them coming out against fracking. I mean, the list goes on and on.
On and on.
That's why you don't see them. They're not an anti-war option. The Democrats had an opportunity to say, are we the party of FDR or are we the party of empty, failed, neoliberal policies? And they are the latter right now. Yep. So there either needs to be an extensive house cleaning or they need to get the hell out of the way because that party's dead in the water and we need a true alternative. I've given every ounce of hope that I could to the Democratic Party. And at this point, I think they are done. I think that, I think you have to have an above all approach where you try to do what you can from within. But I think overall, as a party, they're dead in the water. I still want to see them sweep in 2018. just because of what the alternative is.
Yeah, but
But I think in the long run, we need a true new party, a party that actually has a Green New Deal, a party that actually has a progressive agenda, a party that's actually by the people. And I think that party could be the new party of FDR that would win for the next 40 years. But unless there is an extensive house cleaning, that party is not the Democrats. And even people that I thought were strong leaders turned out not to be. On the Jimmy Dore show, we interviewed Sally Boynton Brown recently, and she just parroted the empty platitudes that you hear from Tom Perez, that you hear from Nancy Pelosi, who, by the way, can't even speak in public anymore. It's pathetic what she is. And when we asked her, well, what are your policy ideas? She had none. There are so many people in power in the Democratic Party or are trying to rally and trying to organize. They don't even know how to answer the question, what do you stand for? Because they don't know what they stand for unless somebody tells them.
You mean unless somebody
this
pays
isn't
them?
Leadership. This is weakness. This is platitude bullshit that has failed miserably. If they were winning with this centrist, soft bullshit, that'd be a little different. Well, this is what's winning, so this is how we have to compromise now. They're not winning. They're losing. They're losing to Donald Trump. So it's a failed. It's just a complete failure, and I think at this point there's no hope from within.
So you're saying we're not winning? We're losers.
We're not winning, not
Baby,
bigly
sad.
or at all.
Not bigly.
We're not winning
not
bigly.
at all.
We're not winning at all.
You know why? Look, these Democrats will not hold a strong progressive position because they're paid not to. They're too weak to turn on the hand that feeds them. So you know what you got to do? You got to take the food away. You got to take away the money. You've got to get the money out of the system, because until we do that, they're not going to turn towards progressive positions. The money's just too good. And I'd like to think that once you remove that money incentive to basically serve only the corporations, then you would see a lot of Democrats turn towards Bernie Sanders' idea. And look, maybe with the threat of being completely wiped out as a national party, which they're pretty damn close, I would also like to think that at least some Democrats are smart enough to realize, oh, right, if we at least try to adopt these positions, maybe we'll win our seat. But not because they're feeling the burn, not because they agree with these policies, but just because they actually want to win. So maybe we'll see that as well. I think that's a likely scenario for 2018, to be honest, because already we're seeing Claire McCaskill saying, "Oh, I want you and I need you, Bernie Sanders supporters." Yeah, okay, well, I don't think you're going to get us.
I mean, these centrist Democrats are pretty much just begging them.
Yeah.
And I hear stuff like that, and I'm like, wait, I thought you
didn't need us.
You didn't need us. Now we're tired of taking your crumbs. You have to come to us, and if you're not going to come to us, we're going to take our ball and go elsewhere. Maybe Bernie won't do it, but someone's going to do it, because if this country doesn't have revolutionary change, and I mean that in the peaceful sense, at least that's what I'm certainly hoping for. If this country does not have revolutionary change, we're done. It's over. I think that the United States as we know it is going to be over. I think that Rome is falling. It's going to fall completely. We're going to be just another country. I think that is a good thing. But if we don't clean house significantly and really change the way we do things, then domestically we're going to be done too.
Yeah. And by the way, one symptom of why Rome fell, actually two, endless warfare and lead in the water.
What a coinky dink.
Uh-oh. Those are not good. Those are not good signs. Flint, East Chicago, and all the other different places that we found lead in the water. Oh, look, and of course dropping the mother of all bombs on Afghanistan. We're 2 for 2. Sad.
Okay.
Sad. Why is it that every time we end up having a segment where we have to say sad? Because it is sad. That's why. All right. Anyway, let's go to the Bernie Crat in Kansas. Now, there was recently a special election race in Kansas, which until recently hadn't gotten a whole lot of media attention, but now has Republicans all over the country pretty rattled. Now, this was between Republican John Estes and Democrat James Thompson. Now, what made this race very, very interesting was how actually close it came in a district which is heavily Republican. This is a very, very conservative district that hasn't had a competitive race for decades. It actually also went to Donald Trump by a huge, huge margin in 2016. Now, in this heavily red district, the Republicans, Ron Estes, was favored by about 29 percentage points. So the election ended up going to Ron, but he won by a total of 7 points. That means Thompson, a Democrat, made up a 22-point gap in the polls. That is huge. Now, Washington conventional wisdom, for one, says, hey, look, if you run as a center-right candidate in some of these heavy Republican areas, then you're going to have a better chance of winning Republican districts, right? I mean, you got to appeal to the conservatives. You got to start running to the right if you want to win. I mean, that's how Joe Manchin, Heidi Heitkamp, and Claire McCaskill won their elections, right? In their very conservative areas. So that must be why Thompson made up a 22-point gap, right? Wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Thompson ran as a Bernie Sanders Democrat, a Bernie-crat. In fact, he said, quote, I'm totally new to politics, but I was inspired to run by Bernie and on his positions. He said, after the election, I decided to get out from behind my Facebook keyboard and try to make a difference, so I decided to run for office. Now, he ran in the very conservative 4th District. Again, incredibly staunchly Republican area, and according to the polls, Estes was ahead by 24 points back in March. However, internal polling done by Republican firms indicated that the lead narrowed to about 1 percentage points just several days before the election. That had Republicans incredibly scared. So what do? When Republicans get scared, they turn to the money masters, which basically flood the area with cash. They turned to the Koch brothers, and they even turned to Donald Trump to record a robocall. In fact, this is what President Trump had to say.
President Donald Trump, and I have something big to tell you. This Tuesday, April 11th, there is a very important special election for Congress in Kansas. On Tuesday, Republican Ron Estes needs your vote and needs it badly. Ron is a conservative leader who's going to work with me to make America great again. We're going to do things really great for our country. Our country needs help. Ron is going to be helping us big league. But I need Republicans like Ron Estes to help me get the job done. This is an important election. There's really few very much more important, and I need your vote for Ron Estes on Tuesday. So, April 11th, Tuesday, please join me in supporting Republican Ron Estes for Congress. He's going to help me do a really, really good job for our country. Thank you very much.
He's going to do a really, really good job. Not great, but just really, really good for the country. And we're going to do things really great together. So it's pretty bad when you had to get all the Koch money in there, the millions of dollars of Koch money, and the president to try to defend a heavily conservative district against a Bernie Sanders guy. I mean, look, 7%, that's not a blowout. However, making up a 22-point lead is nothing short of amazing. Even though he lost, Thompson essentially put the fear in him.
Well, the tides are turning.
Yeah.
I mean, and not only that, but I mean, it's worth pointing out, and I know you pointed this out, but I mean, Kansas is potentially the most conservative place in the country. I mean, when you think about it, and I know that's a tough measure to make, and that's a really tough determination to make, and there really is no clear answer. But I mean, Kansas is home of the Westboro Baptist Church. Kansas is home to very staunch Republicanism. The blue dots in Kansas are very small. You got Lawrence, and to the best of my knowledge, that's about it. And I mean, I'm no authority more so than anyone else, but I've also traveled the highways for many years, 45 weeks a year. So
Many
I've
years.
seen pretty much every nook and cranny of this country almost. Kansas, oddly enough, one of the few states I've never played, but uh, but yeah, I mean, the fact that that's happening there, and it just proves how the message of true populism goes beyond the left-right paradigms that the media has been shoving down our throats for so many years. And Bernie Sanders proves that at his town halls too.
Yeah.
And it's too bad that MSNBC either isn't smart enough or doesn't give a shit to make that association and to say, look at how this populism is connecting. Look at how this message is connecting in the reddest of areas. Look at this town hall full of people in a conservative districts cheering for universal health care, crying because they don't have access to clean drinking water and they want to see fracking go away. And this is Bernie's message. This could win nationwide. This could sweep nationwide. You don't really hear those reports on MSNBC, and I know some people in the comment section get on our case when we get on MSNBC's case, but you know what? It's warranted because this is happening, and they're not telling people that it's happening.
Right.
They're reporting on the town halls. I'll give them that much. But they are really underplaying how revolutionary this is. And the only reason they're having Bernie is because of ratings. They're not having him because they know that this is happening.
And there wasn't a lot of news reports on how progressive his positions actually were, or any really sort of nod to the fact that these progressive ideas play well in places, even places like Kansas. You had some experts, all they were looking at is horse race, right? In fact, you had Washburn University political scientist Bob Beatty telling the Associated Press, Republicans nationally should be very worried about this race. It's remarkable that Thompson got this close. Really no mention of why he got close. You also have Nate Silver, our good old friend at 538, saying any takeaway other than KSO4 is really worrying for Republicans is overthinking it. The one person, I got to give credit to this guy. This is a Washington Post writer, Dave Weigel. Tweeted out, a pro-choice Bernie-crat gave Republicans their toughest fight in KSO4 since 1994. So that's, at least he mentioned that he's a Bernie Sanders Democrat. Now, Sally Kapoor tweets, if House Republicans in moderate districts are spooked by Obamacare repeal, now wait till they learn that ruby red districts are competitive. Tom Bonnier, that's a strange name. Maybe I said it wrong. Said there are over 100 Republicans sitting in districts that wouldn't have been heavily GOP enough to overcome the D swing we saw in Kansas City right now. Or in Kansas, sorry, not Kansas City. Matthew Iglesias says the House Republicans in seats where Trump was below 50% might want to think about these Kansas numbers before casting their next CRA vote. But what a lot of them seem to be missing is why. The policies. It's about the policies, stupid. Let's focus on progressive policies because even those play in these places. Because, look, common sense isn't necessarily a liberal idea. Common sense is common sense. As we mentioned before, whenever we talk about healthcare, this should not be a partisan issue. Everybody should be guaranteed the right to healthcare. Why do we think this is a political issue in this country? I have no idea. But Democrats, pay attention, okay? Mainstream Democrats, pay attention. If Bernie Sanders' ideas are popular enough in Kansas to make this competitive, imagine if they all actually started putting resources into winning in these states. This is what the real resistance looks like. Not your phony resistance that you're running right now. Not lip service, not bumper stickers, not placards. This is resistance because this actually changes the paradigm. If people all over the country started running on progressive ideas, we could actually start. We not only could we win in some of these places, but we could potentially turn every conservative area purple because we're running on common sense ideas.
That's what they're referring to when they say the resistance. They're resisting an actual progressive platform.
They're resisting change. They're resisting change against the status quo,
which is something the Republicans have always been good at.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought we were supposed to have one conservative party and one liberal party. It turns out we've got two conservative parties that tend to fight against change wherever they can, with notable exceptions, of course, that we have. It's amazing. So, I mean, what's your overall thoughts for this?
My overall thoughts are what I've always been saying. I think that Bernie Sanders' message is one. I mean, he's basically a New Deal Democrat, and one of the things I don't like as of right now over the whole like, oh, I'm a Bernie Sanders Democrat. I wish that was just people would just say I'm a real Democrat. I'm an actual Democrat.
Yeah.
I'm what the Democrats are supposed to be. This is what the Democrats are supposed to stand for. And I think that this is showing us what actual populism has the potential to do in this country. Mm-hmm. I think this is showing us that people are starting to see through the bullshit because they're tired of suffering. They're tired of getting a raw deal. They're seeing through neoliberalism. They're seeing through the snake oil that the right has been selling them. I think a lot of people are coming around to the sham that Trump was and still is. And I think people are starting to get back to going towards their own interest. Mm-hmm. So the left in this country has an opportunity to, again, embrace a Green New Deal and become the party of FDR again, a party that did very well for about 40 years. We have an opportunity to go back in that direction. If history is going to repeat itself, we will go back in that direction. Because right now we're looking the way we looked in 1928. What happened after that was the Great Depression, but what happened after that, the New Deal. So we obviously need to go back in that direction. I know that the corporate Democrats are fighting history, and that's because they're not real Democrats. They're bought. They are bought. They're content with losing because their donors are happy with it.
Yep.
And, like I said, I've given every benefit of the doubt that a rational person can. At this point, these people need outed. They need to get the hell out of the way. They need to get exposed by groups like Justice Democrats. And I think in the long run, the Democratic Party's dead, and we need a new third party.
Got to do something, because again, the status quo is not working for us. We're not winning with the status quo. So there needs to be some sort of change. Either one is acceptable. Let's do something. Let's do it from both angles. Let's do it from the inside, do it from the outside. And if one fails, at least we have something to back it up. Because
we got to do an above all approach.
Yeah, we cannot continue to rely on the status quo. All right. Do you want to talk about Alabama and the church police?
Sure.
All right. Alabama's church police. Wow. America. Recently, Alabama voted to allow a church to hire its own armed and fully trained police force. Lawmakers on Tuesday voted 24-4 to allow Briarwood Presbyterian Church in Birmingham, Alabama, to establish its own law enforcement department. Now, the obvious question here is, why? Why does a church need its own police force? What is going on here? I mean, look, we've seen examples of this throughout history. It never ends well. Okay? Nothing ever good comes from anything like this. Now, the church says that it needs its own police officers to keep its school as well as its more than 4,000 person congregation safe. So they're like, oh, but we're not safe. We need safety, so we're going to hire our own cops. We're not going to rely on anybody else. No, we're going to hire our own police force to protect our people. And if you're not part of the church, if you're not part of our community, well, sad day for you. Now, imagine, if you will, if a mosque in Alabama asked for the same thing. Yeah, like every time any of these religion questions comes up, you have to ask. Actually, you don't always have to ask. You can just substitute Christianity with Islam. Is it okay if a Muslim did this? What's your reaction to that? And if it's not okay if a Muslim did it, then why should it be okay that a Christian does it? That would be me. And look, to be honest, the mosque would actually have some legitimate grounds. It'd have a pretty good argument for hiring its own police force. Not that I agree with that, but it would have a pretty good argument thanks to the Islamophobia going on in this country right now. But again, I would be against that idea because I'm against anyone having to hire its own police force. Because again, they're unaccountable to anybody except for the church, and that's scary as hell. But as far as the Muslim example, you know what would happen? Everybody would scream bloody murder. Here come the Sharia police, right? Oh my God, the cops are going to be enforcing Islam. Oh no, we can't have that. And really, we can't actually have that. We can't have them enforcing Christianity, or we can't have them enforcing Islam or Judaism if they decide to do that for a Jewish church. This is a bad idea all around. I mean, you think they wouldn't freak out? Yeah, they totally freak out. And again, Alabama was one of the states that said, we're going to ban Sharia law preemptively. But Sharia law is already, like, all religious laws already banned thanks to the First Amendment to the Constitution. Why did you have to go and do a double ban on it? It's amazing. This is what's going on here. But they're so scared.
Well, what's interesting here, I always get a kick out of any story where Christianity tries to make itself out to be persecuted in this country. That is nothing short of insanity. Despite how many times Bill O'Reilly tries to bring back the war on Christmas, it is nothing short of insane to think that, especially in a place like Alabama. Look, there's still about 77% of all the people that live in the United States identify with some form of Christianity. That's still the case. More and more people are becoming secular, and I'm okay with that. But you know, this whole idea that Christianity is some persecuted thing is just comical and just delusional and just a total red herring that people like Pat Robertson parrot because they have nothing else to talk about. Because, you know, they're preaching to the wall of privilege, so there's nothing to be outraged about other than faux outrage. So they're going to go, well, Christianity, we're persecuted. No, you're not. Not in this country, at least. No, you are not. You are the big man on campus. And in many situations, and, you know, again, this isn't directed at all Christians. I know a lot of great people that are Christian. You're the bully in a lot of cases. So to make it out like you're some persecuted group, that you need protection, you need your own police force, that is a level of paranoia that I can't even relate to. I think to have that level of paranoia, you also have to believe that there's an imaginary man that lives in the sky, and if you touch yourself, he's going to send you to damnation. To have that level of paranoia, that's something else you also need to believe. Yeah,
and their reason, of course, is, again, we got to protect our people from a Sandy Hook. That's what they said. We're afraid that we're going to have a Sandy Hook shooting that's going to happen, and we need our armed police forces to prevent that. Well, how about you instead fix your gun laws? Remember, Jesus didn't walk around, if he was an actual real person, and that's debatable. He didn't walk around saying, thou must arm yourself with thy Glock 45 or hire police. No, the Jesus of the Bible was a anti-authority figure. He didn't like the police. He was the guy that got arrested. So I can't find any valid reasons to this. And there's a lot of really scary parts of this for the fact that this police force is going to be accountable to the church and only to the church, not to the taxpayers. Now, they say that they're going to operate only on church grounds and within the community. The church said officers will be restricted to the church campuses and be able to respond to emergency situations while coordinating with local authorities. That also kind of scary. So now you're going to have the church coordinating with local authorities. Well, what if there's an emergency involving someone who's gay or transgender or one of these communities that the church isn't exactly happy with? Sorry, dude, we cannot respond to this emergency, even though we're the closest one there, because they're gay.
Yeah, and they'll start being kind of infiltrated into regular law
Yeah.
enforcement,
Yeah.
which I mean, there's gotta be a
Yeah.
lot of constitutional no-nos
There
going on in
is.
this.
There is. In fact, the
Mm-hmm.
ACLU is saying, and we don't always agree 100% with the ACLU. They're pro Citizens United, just to be clear. But a lot of what they do is actually pretty good work. And they're saying this seems deeply unconstitutional. We're going to have to challenge that, which is great. Good on them, because this does not seem right whatsoever. So hopefully they get involved. But if this ends up going to the Supreme Court, well, now we have Judge Neil Gorsuch. So we have an illegitimate judge, Neil Gorsuch, by the way. Because, again, that's a stolen seat. As far as this whole religious police goes, are they going to also enforce religious edicts in their district, in their purview? Are they going to start enforcing biblical code? I mean, we don't know. This has never been done in America before, and it should have never been done in America in the first place. And also, has anybody here watched Game of Thrones? We know what happens when you militarize a religion. It never ends up well. Usually a sept gets
Don't
blown
do any
up.
spoilers,
Spoilers,
man.
sorry.
Some people might still be catching up.
Oh, they've
Don't
been
do
a
any
long time
spoilers.
catching up.
Although you just made me real excited for July.
Oh, yeah.
I do love that
show.
show.
It's a great show. We know where this is going, though. Not a good idea. Well, let's not militarize the church, okay? Let's not give them a police force. Why is the local police force not good enough for the church? You ever wonder that?
It's a valid question.
It's a good question. They got a lot of answering to do, because we've got a lot of questions. Aside from just the constitutional issues here, the whole First Amendment thing, I mean, no, this is unacceptable, in my view. Unacceptable. Alabama, what are you doing? Stop. You just need to stop, okay? Anyway, you got time for one story? One more story?
Yeah, man. I gotta sign out at 4, but yeah, I got time for one more.
All right, let's talk United. More bad news for United Airlines. A new report out details a separate incident where another passenger was physically threatened for not leaving his seat. Now, this goes along with the week of bad press that they've had since they literally dragged a guy out of his seat, broke some of his teeth, and dragged him out of the aisle. All right. So now apparently this airline reportedly threatened a first-class passenger with handcuffs because he didn't want to leave the seat that he paid for. Isn't that amazing? Now, here's a story. Now, this is Jeff Fearns, right? Now, Jeff Fearns purchased a full-price class ticket to travel from Hawaii to California. Well, that's pretty nice, right? Now, he was asked to get off the plane by an airline employee because the flight had been overbooked, the same issue that was happening before. And he told the Los Angeles Times, that's when they told me they needed the seat for somebody more important who came in at the last minute. They said they have a priority list, and this other person was higher on the list than I was. Well, there's always someone higher on the list. There's always somebody with more money, more connections, more influence, etc. So it's kind of disturbing that they have a priority list that can bump you off the plane even after you've been seated. Mm-hmm. Now, like the passenger removed in that viral video last week, Fearns had already been seated in the plane, and that's actually a very important distinction because according to their policy, their own policy, if the flight is overbooked, you can be removed, but only if you're at the gate, if you haven't actually boarded and taken your seat yet. So they're violating their own policy. Mr. Fearns knew that. He said, I understand you might bump people because the flight is full. But they didn't say anything at the gate when they're supposed to. I was already in the seat, and now they were telling me I had no choice. They said they would put me in handcuffs if they had to. Like this guy's some sort of common criminal. This guy's sitting in first class.
This is unbelievable what's happening.
This isn't a regular person. This is not somebody not like, who's not you and me. I can't afford first class. Pretty sure you can't. This is not somebody who's poor regular Joe. This is somebody who's got a little bit of money, and they're still doing it
So
to
even
that
if it
guy.
wasn't, this is still beyond.
It's still
fucked
beyond,
up.
but I'm saying the difference is they don't care who you are. If there's
Right.
somebody who's more powerful, who has more money, they will crush you. They don't give a crap about us, and they don't even give a crap about themselves, about people who are even close to being in their class. It's the top of the top, man. So what happened to him? The airline moved Fearns to a middle seat in the economy section of the plane, and this is hilarious, where he said he sat between a couple in the throes of an argument. So imagine getting bumped from first class if you were ever lucky enough to be there, and then getting put in the middle seat, which would suck, between an arguing couple. Kind of hilarious, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it is. I mean, but this goes into
It's awful, though.
the whole lesson from everything that's going on. Airlines should not be allowed to overbook.
Yes.
That needs to stop. It should have never happened. Because it's not like you reserve the seat and don't pay for it. You pay for it.
You paid for the seat.
You
That's your
pay
seat.
for it. So they're already getting all their seats filled. There's no reason for them to overbook. It's a profit gouging bullshit way of doing things.
Yep.
And if some airlines came out and said, we're not doing this anymore, those airlines would crush it. Because, I mean, I can guarantee you, I as a consumer would say I'm only going to fly those airlines from now on unless they do not service somewhere. So if like a big airline like a Southwest or like a, whoever else, if airlines like that caliber came out and were like, we're not overbooking anymore. And, we're going to have, some watchdogs are going to make sure we abide by this. We're not overbooking anymore. I would go out of my way to make sure I only patronize those airlines. Or there needs to be some kind of, intervention here where it's prohibited. Because, I mean, this is what happens. And these airlines, I mean, deregulation has brought the flight industry to its knees. I mean, a lot of the people are overworked. They're underpaid. Benefits have been reduced. Some airlines are doing it better than others, certainly. But, airports are miserable places. TSA is just completely out of control, out of paranoia and fear. And, now's the time for some changes to happen. And consumers need to do everything in their power to try to make that happen. And I think we need to demand that overbooking stops. I mean, that's a start. Start demanding that overbooking stops. And the airlines that step up to the plate, those are the airlines that are going to remain standing.
Mm-hmm. Now, the one good thing I can say about this, Ron, is that United is not going to have any more overbookings because no one's going to want to fly United.
Yeah.
To be fair. But look, on this guy, so listen to how they treated this guy. Again, who is not one of us. He's actually somebody who seems to have a lot of money. Upon returning home, Fearns wrote to the airline CEO, Oscar Muniz, asking for a full reimbursement of the price he paid for the ticket and for United to donate $25,000 to a charity of his choosing. This guy was not fucking around. He's like, do you know who I am? Do you know how you treated me? You're going to give me my full price ticket and you're going to donate money on my behalf to a charity. United responded by telling him that a refund is not possible, of course, but offered the difference in price between what he paid for an economy seat, and they also offered him a $500 credit to put towards another ticket. Despite the negative appearance, we hope to have your continued support. According to an airline customer service representative, your business is especially important to us, and we'll do our utmost to make your future contracts with the United satisfactory in every aspect. Why I'm reading that to you is to illustrate how they don't care about us. They don't care.
Yeah,
who
they
you
truly
are.
don't give a shit. I mean, that
They
CEO
don't.
of United was disgusting. His apology was disgusting.
Yeah. You mean non-apology?
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, we are living in the corporate states of America. We are the dystopian nightmare future where the machines have taken over. Except it's not the Terminator that's crushing you. It's a corporation. A corporation, again, is a soulless machine. And they will destroy you whether or not you've actually paid the price for their good or service. Okay? But it's not the corporation's fault. They're not evil. They're amoral. They have no morals. They're just there to make profit. You know whose fault it is? It's not theirs, it's ours. Not us, you and me individually, but as a nation. Why? Because we haven't put a check on them for allowing and electing politicians that continue to take money from these same corporations who then in turn allow them to crush us. it's our fault for as a country for championing unregulated free market capitalism that allows these kind of business practices to flourish. Things like overbooking. We've got to have a government there to police the corporations, and in order to do that, they have to not be allowed to take corporate money. So there's the overall lesson that you can learn from all of this, from the fact that they're smearing Dr. Dow, by the way, in order to help boost their corporate relations, which is going swimmingly, by the way, for them, since their stock price is pretty much in the toilet. We've got to put a check on these companies so they don't do this anymore. How many more instances do we have of corporations stepping all over us, crushing us into the ground? And then you'll have apologists too. And I've read a whole bunch of, I've seen a whole lot of responses about this. Well, he should have got up. He should have moved. Whenever there's somebody in authority, you have to listen to everything that they say. No, fuck your authority. I'm not listening to you. Where does your authority come from? The fact that you're in an authoritative position? No, fuck you. I'm not going to do what you tell me. That's it. I'm not. I'm not going to listen to you. You have no authority with me. You can kindly fuck off. I paid for this seat.
Rage Against the Machine said it best.
Yes, you will literally have to drag me off. Yeah, fuck you. I will do what you told me. I got the reference.
Yeah. I know. I'm impressed.
Yeah.
I'm impressed and maybe mildly surprised. Maybe.
You should be. You should be. But seriously, like, we've got to stop. We've got to stop giving them so much power. We've got to take the power back from the corporations and from the wealthy. And there's only one way to do it. We got to get the money out of politics.
Oh.
All right. Anyway. Ron, I know you got to go. So thank you for...
yeah, man. Time for me to sign out.
Yeah, thanks for doing the show. We'll see you next week.
Thanks for having me. And, I look forward to going back to normal. Next week, it should pretty much be back to normal. But I know the past 2 weeks between me having to travel and the crazy YouTube news, things kind of got discombobulated. But hopefully everything's back to normal next week.
All right. Well, as always...
Which means I'll see you on Tuesday.
You'll let me know, and I'll let everybody else know what's going on. So thank you, Ron. We'll see you next week.
All right, man. Thanks.
Yep. All right. As far as everybody here on the live stream, we're going to get out of here for the day. Remember, we still have that AMA yesterday for the patrons only after the normal show. Got our normal show at 3 p.m. Eastern. We're going to have a special thing at 7 p.m. Eastern. Patreon.com/TYTNation. I'll have a link in there. Ask your questions. We got a thread going on, and we'll answer the questions. And of course, if you can't make it for the live show, don't worry. We'll have a recording for the whole AMA session. It's going to be probably about an hour. So get in your questions, and I will answer them. Ask me anything. So it's going to be a lot of fun. So I hope you guys can join me. All right. Again. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you guys tomorrow for the live show, 3 p.m. Eastern right here. Thank you for liking this video, sharing, subscribing, all that stuff. Thank you to the patrons. As always, you help to continue this show. So I couldn't thank you enough for your support. That's it. Love you guys. We'll see you tomorrow. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, TYT Nation.